This is Emma. I don't think I want the life I spent years working toward. And admitting that feels terrifying. From the outside, everything looks right. I have a stable job, a long-term partner, and plans that make sense. This is the life I told myself I wanted, the one I made sacrifices for. But lately, instead of feeling proud, I feel trapped. Every milestone feels like another door quietly closing. Buying a house, talking about marriage, planning further ahead. All of it makes me feel anxious instead of excited. I keep wondering when I stopped checking in with myself and started just following the next logical step. What scares me most is nothing actually is wrong. My partner is kind, my job is fine. That makes it harder to explain why I feel this constant sense of dread, like I'm living someone else's version of a good life. I haven't said any of this out loud because I don't want to hurt anyone or blow up something that looks stable. So I keep moving forward while quietly grieving the possibility that I chose wrong, or that I never really chose at all. My question is, how do you know when discomfort means you should push through, not walk away from everything you built? So I think this is a classic human behavior. One that I definitely fall for. This is me. This would be me if I sat still enough, in a sense. Or this will be me when you get the dream you want, the goal you want. And this is what I see when you watch documentaries and you listen to podcasts about people that have achieved the dream. I feel like they get there and they go, is this it? Have I arrived? Is this all it was for? Sacrificing all this for just this feeling that feels like I was always here? That life just feels the same. You know, to get rich. Everyone wants to be rich. And then they get there and they're like, oh, hold on, this didn't solve all my problems in my head. Life hasn't just miraculously changed. This big hit, this big win hasn't just arrived. What the fuck? And I think that's what this is, but the weird part is you haven't achieved this big win, you haven't hit the lottery. There's not this moment that has arrived where you've gone, holy fuck, I've got the dream. And I think a lot of the times, everything comes down to appreciation. And no one wants to fucking hear that. Everyone's like, oh, here we go again. You appreciate this, live in the moment, all that tosh. In a weird kind of way, to simplify life, to really make it simple on how to live happily and how to live peacefully. It's just working on appreciation. Because if you can appreciate everything you have, no matter what you've got, you're kind of winning. You've kind of done it. You don't need this dream. You don't need this big goal. You've already got everything. And I think a lot of us relate to this more than we know. Because we've all got that next dream, that next goal, that next thing that we want, the next idea about life. Over there, that's when I start living. That's when life kicks in. When I get over there, you aren't all gonna know how happy I'm gonna be, how at peace. Once I get there, that's it. That's the dream, that's the goal. And we all fall into this idea that when we start living, we all fall into this dream that over there is when we start living. Over there is when we make it. But realistically, we've got everything we need right now. You've already achieved goals that you once dreamed of. You've already attained things that you once dreamed of. And the example I always use is when you was a little kid, if you got 20 quid, you didn't know what to do with yourself. You opened up the Argos catalogue or went to Toys R Us, and you was in heaven. You were like, I want that, I want this, I want that. Oh my God, think of the Lego I could have bought. Think of all the toys I can get. Think of this, I can go to the shop, think of what I can buy. Oh my God, I'm rich. Never mind if you ever got 100 quid, Jesus. You were the talk of the town. You were the billionaire kid. That's how you felt. You felt like you could do anything, get anything you wanted. You were so happy. Most of us now make 100 quid in a day. Yet why aren't we as happy as when we were a kid? Obviously because we've lifted up our expectation. We've increased our boundary for joy. You all sit there now and you go, well, you're not going to pay rent with 100 quid. What food are you going to get with 100 quid? How am I going to go out and enjoy myself with just 100 quid? I can't live on 100 quid. And I get it, there's obviously being an adult and things are more expensive. 100 quid's not as valuable as it used to be. But put it on a bigger scale for adults. You go from 20 grand to 30 grand, 30 grand to 40 grand. In your head, dreaming of that, if I just had an extra 10 grand in my life, holy fuck, how happy will I be? The things I can do, the places I can go. And the thing I found out was, once you get that extra money, you spend it. You set your life up differently. You increase your threshold for joy, for stability. You expand your ideas and how you're thinking. Right, instead of going on a holiday in a decent place, we're not going to go on holiday and have a great hotel, have a great place. But when you was on 20 grand, you were dreaming of that 10 grand, and you'll be surprised how quick, and this is from experience, you'd be surprised how quick that 10 grand gets eaten up every month because of the things you put it on, the things you set it in, and how quickly you crave the next 10 grand, the next thing. And I think that's what's happening here. You're stable, and you're unfamiliar with that stable feeling. You're unfamiliar with being comfortable, being it there, achieving the dream. You now want the next, because sometimes you're in a constant state of, I want more. I've got to get out of this situation I'm in right now. And this is the perfect example of when I talk about you've always got struggle, you've always got tough moments, you've always got something you're thinking about in life. The next problem is the next problem. You don't get away from it. This problem is always here. Just because you fixed it, just because you fixed what's going on now, doesn't mean you're not going to come across another problem. Because I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's just human nature, and we just create this situation. We create this mindset of stepping up to the next thing. I mean, it's served us well in society. It's how we've got where we are. It's how we've advanced from being primitive to now. It's just what happens is we forget. We forget, and we want more. We can't deal with being comfortable. And that's why appreciation is such a hard skill to master. Because for me, I know my own mind plays tricks on me. If I just sat here nice and comfortable, David Goggins pops into my head and talks about being uncomfortable, about stepping out your comfort zone. And there's a balance That's what I've convinced myself. I've convinced myself there has to be a balance between stepping out your comfort zone and being comfortable. And I don't know which one's right. I don't know if you should be uncomfortable all the time, or comfortable all the time, or have that balance. I think a part of me deep down just knows when you step out of this life, step out of the situation that you're in, any one of them's fine, as long as you live in it, as long as you're experiencing everything that there is to experience. As long as you step out and say, fuck, I'm just happy to be alive. At a foundational level, everything's great because I'm alive, because not being alive, you don't get any of it. You don't get to experience the pain and the joy. You don't get to experience the happiness and the sadness, the loss and the gain. So just being alive at its core, at its foundation, maybe that's good enough. And anything after that is just a bonus. You see it with people who have near-death experiences. They change. They realise what truly matters to them. But what people don't see after the near-death experience, after a decade or so, they probably fall back into that trap of wanting more. And I'm undecided whether it's a negative of wanting more. I think it's a negative if you can't control it, if you don't recognize it. I think if you have a leash on wanting more, I think it's beneficial. Because sometimes it's nice to have a dream, it's nice to have a goal. You know, you hear Chris Williamson talk about it's better to want the Ferrari than to own the Ferrari. The age-old question of, would you prefer to be unhappy and rich, or poor and happy? And the idea that it's better to be unhappy in a Ferrari than unhappy on the bus. But if you have a dream, if you have hope, that's almost valuable enough to want to be poor and unhappy, because you're dreaming of that Ferrari, you're dreaming of that car, rather than you've got that car and now you've not got another thing to dream of. So in a sense, I feel like it is okay to want more, but you've just got to keep it on a leash and realise and sort of have a practice of appreciation. And that's, I think, what loss gives us. When you lose something, it gives you appreciation because you once had it, now you don't. Now you're going to struggle. And it's not like, oh, why me? It's you. Now it's your time to appreciate what you have and what you had. And it's difficult when you're in that stable situation, when you've got everything. I struggle with it. I'm happy. I'm at peace. I'm the most at peace I've ever been. I'm the most happiest I've ever been in my life. And you have that little bit of worry of, what if it goes? I've got to hold on to it tightly, because if it goes, what then? And it happened to me. I had this joy and this peace about life. And then life got a bit turned upside down. Now, not in comparison to the struggle you see around the world, but enough to make me wonder and think, what happened to that peace? What happened to that happiness, that joy? And then it came back. And you realise you don't have to hold on to it and grab it. When everything's good, you don't have to panic and be like, oh my God, it's going to go. I wonder if that's a part of this situation, that you can't sit and enjoy the fruits of your labour. Because there might be a little bit of worry of like, let's not get too comfortable here, because it might disappear. It might go. This might not be forever. Someone's going to tell me that I'm being filmed here and it's not real. It's not all real, this happiness, this joy. I've not truly got everything that I needed to get, that I wanted to get. I've not got the life that I dreamed of. Does that factor in this? Not being able to accept that, hold on, I have arrived. It feels weird. And then the third factor is, maybe you've got a life that you dreamed of that was false. You was led down a path to believe, to expect something different than what you got. Because the perception of everything is altered, is fake. And that's where you got to think, when you're looking at dreams, when you're looking at goals, do you want the positives and negatives that come with it? I think a lot about these great people in life. The stars, the popular people, the people on top. That we look at and we go, oh yeah, I'd have that life. I'd have his money and fame. He doesn't have to work a 9 to 5. Yeah, I'll have that. But would you take the mindset of greatness? You know, everyone wants to be number one. But number one sacrifices so much, is in a constant state of wanting more. He's never satisfied, never comfortable. Can't sit and appreciate everything they have, because if you sit and appreciate everything that you have, you're not going to improve, you're not going to stay as number one. Someone's going to sneak up behind you and take that spot. So everyone wants to be number one, but no one wants that mindset once they're there. You see it. You see people reach the top and then crumble. You see people hit the limit, hit the top and say, I've arrived, I've got my dream, I'm the champion, I'm number one. And then a year later they crumble and fall, and you think, where the hell did they go? Maybe they realized what it takes to stay there and they don't want it. I think about that. I think about that a lot. I think about the life that I've got when you're in the middle. You're not at the top, but you're not at the bottom. You're in the middle. Maybe that is the perfect place to be, but we don't see it. None of us ever see it. You don't look and go, I've made it. Because you've got that steady 9 to 5. You go on holiday twice a year. You're comfortable. Maybe that is it. Maybe that's making it, because you've not got this looming pressure to want more, to be better. Maybe you've got peace. You know, I almost think of it in a comparative sense of, you got your David Goggins, your Jockos, versus a monk. What each symbolizes. I'm not saying either's wrong. I'm not saying either's right. They might both be the same in a sense. Who knows? But I think for this situation that you're going through, you've got to try and figure out, have you been fed a lie? That you didn't actually want this stable life? Do you want to live, or do you want to work the 9 to 5? The 9 to 5 has a benefit. It's stable. But stable can mean boring. And I think about it a lot when it comes to businesses. The guy that's paid the most is the owner, the CEOs, the people at the top. But every single day, they live and wonder, is today the day the business goes under? Is today the day a mistake happens that I can't cope with? Whereas you, as a little 9 to 5 employee, you've not got so much pressure. You've not got the responsibility of everyone's weight. If you make a mistake and the business goes under, how many people suffer because of a mistake that you made? You don't think about that when you're not an owner. You're not at the top. You're a 9-to-5er. You think about yourself. I just want more money. I want to work less. I want more holidays. That's your problem. Because you've got a stable life. Some might call a boring life. You might feel bored. You might want a bit of excitement. But do you want that risk? We all want the excitement when it goes well. But do we want the excitement when the risk is being homeless? The risk is everything breaks and crumbles. We could be homeless. We could lose everything. The boring life looks a bit more inviting when you start thinking about the risks. So it's where you're looking in your life. It's where you're looking for if things feel stagnant and boring and too stable. But yeah, I do think about that all the time because we're all heading towards a dream. We're all heading towards a goal. We're all trying to get somewhere. And I always wonder, are we just there anyway? We're trying to arrive, but have we been here this whole time? We've arrived this whole time by just living and just being alive. But then that little voice inside me says, no, you can't sit and be comfortable. You gotta want more. You gotta be great. But I think that's just being human in a sense. But yeah, peace.